What does this fight do for the Shevchenko legacy, assuming she gets a victory?
Not a whole lot, nothing negative, obviously, but, look, it's more about the number, meaning this will be her 7th title defense in 3 years? I mean, I'm not saying that because apparently I got dead wrong rightfully about thinking in my mind that she's fighting 3 or 4 times a year. No, she's only fighting twice a year, but she's so consistent on the nose with showing up and with absolutely dominating that it doesn't really seem at this weight class as of right now. Although, look, if she can get in a fight with Miesha Tate, would people care more than normal? Of course. But that there's anybody that can really challenge her. Andrade, I thought, well, no. Unless Tatiana Suarez is coming through that bullpen fully healthy, I'm not sure. So this is more about, in my eyes, just adding one more title defense. I mean, look, Luke, top of your head, how many people have ever defended the UFC title 7 times before? I mean, you're already in select company, correct?
Yeah, 3 or 4 at most, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically what? Demetrius, John, GSP.
Silva.
Yeah, okay, there you go. So, to me, Luke, I really think this is, I don't think the last fight forever, but the last fight in this division for a bit. And what I mean by that is, we have Pena and Nunes rematching for the bantamweight title to close July. And we've seen the comments from Valentina, who's forever said, I am going to get the 3rd fight with Amanda, when the timing is right. And now saying, look, I'd like the timing to be this year. I think if she wins this in advances, she goes up to bantamweight. We get her against the winner of that rematch. Either way, you can really hype it up and, to the idea of the pound for pound queen trying to become the GOAT, whether you care about that or not. Could that lead to a 2-fight series? Or, what if she beat Pena and then fought Nunes? It could lead to different things. So as far as this fight meaning much to her overall standing, it's more of just holding ground. She is the pound for pound number 1 at the moment. She is among the greatest fighters we have ever seen, male or female. But I do like this matchup, Luke. And even though the odds are what they are, I see Taila Santos as a plus 425 or plus 400 underdog. I go, oh, that means she actually has a chance compared to who we've seen in what the odds were. Luke, can you tell us, I mean, does Taila Santos really have a chance? Because you would say Jennifer Maia had more success against Shevchenko than we thought, but it didn't really put her in situations where she could win it. So how different could Taila Santos be? Forget winning, although, or maybe not. Is forget winning in play? Can she win this fight, Luke? What the fuck's going to happen, bro?
I mean, here's the problem with all of these fights with Shevchenko, and I think you'd agree with this, which is, it's like when you look at her, the people who are trying to fight her, maybe a little less so in the case of Jessica Ai, but certainly in the case of Taila Santos, dude, the tape on her, she looks like a great fighter. She can wrestle some, obviously. I think she's careful in the striking department. She can take her time in fights. She knows when to press the gas and the brake. She's experienced as well. Not as much as Valentina, but this is what I mean. Like, you go down the list, you're like, what is she good at? Dude, she's good at a lot of things. But this is the question. The question is not what is she good at. The question is, given what she's good at, what can she use there to beat Shevchenko? And the answer is, short of Shevchenko making a mistake, I don't really know. It's not like she's got Khabib-like wrestling where, yes, Shevchenko is not the best wrestler, but by the way, very much underrated Shevchenko is as an offensive wrestler, and defensive wrestling has come a very long way. Plus, she mines the range so well that it's even hard to get your hands on her. Obviously, Jennifer Maia had some success in that regard, but not enough. So then you're like, okay, well, that's probably not going to be a real, actual, tangible way to get victory. What about striking on the inside or the outside? And you're like, dude, good luck with that shit against Valentina Shevchenko. So it's like, I see why the odds are what they are. Santos is a very good fighter who has hardly anything you could say negatively about what is deficient in her game. But when you ask, what is that thing that you can lord over Valentina Shevchenko, dude, for the life of me, if she doesn't make a mistake or she's not injured, I candidly do not know what that would be.
She feels so far ahead of everyone else in terms of preparation, experience, technique, the shape she gets herself in, always being 3-4 moves ahead of everybody. That, sometimes I talk about it in boxing, that in some of these mythical matchups, in the back of my mind, I'm favoring the more pure boxer because I'm like, if all else fails, they can win a boring fight or try to if they have to. Dude, Shevchenko can also win a boring fight quite easily should she wanted to, and sometimes they end up being that way if her opponent doesn't step on the gas. But is it going to be a specialist like I thought Andrade could challenge Shevchenko? I thought she could make it a fun fight, right? Because she's a specialist. She has an elite one category? Or is it going to be the well-rounded fighter on the right night who sort of just doesn't make mistakes and then suddenly we have a closer fight? Or is it just not possible to defeat Valentina Shevchenko at 125, Luke, and we just need to wake up, understand that, and realize the real way she's going to stamp that resume is winning the 135 title and facing as many big names in the higher weight classes that she can before retiring?
I think it is possible to beat her. I mean, I'll save some of this stuff for Friday when looking at her numbers and sort of getting a sense of the lay of the land. But they're pretty commensurate. Their numbers are all pretty close together. They're not that far apart in any kind of way. Now, again, what they say on paper, given who they fought and what it means in the cage, is a totally separate thing. Yes, I do think Shevchenko is beatable. And you will say that Taila Santos, she is a little bit younger. I think she's like 28, 29, something like that. Which gives her, that space to be in her physical prime and probably still getting a little bit better. I would say Valentina's game is probably, for the most part, what it's going to be. I'm sure she can add things to it here and there, but at the core nucleus.
Dude, I say no to that. Can I tell you that? And I want you to disagree with me if you believe it. I think she's constantly adding to her game. I think she purposely showed off the wrestling against Andrade to go, look what else I could do if I want to. Completely own the fight this
She's
lane.
had that wrestling for a while. That's not new. That's what I mean. Like, has she sharpened up some of her entries? Has she sharpened up some of the finishes, some of the ways in which she applies it? Yes. And those could be hugely impactful. It's not to say that, like, adding a little bit doesn't mean much. But what I'm trying to say is that core portion of her game is already there. And for Santos, that's largely true as well. I'm just trying to find reasons for optimism with Santos. I'll say this. Santos does a lot of the same things Shevchenko does, not so much in terms of direct application, but in terms of the things she's good at. She's just a little bit of a step behind in all of them. She gets hit a little bit more. I think her takedown defense is slightly better given who she's fought, but not to the point where you think that can make a dramatic impact. She's going to have to go out there, and I really believe this. She's going to either have to make it ugly in some kind of way, or you're going to have. I mean, we talk about it all the time, and Trevor Whitman has made this point as well. Dude, you really want to see the difference between the people who hold belts and the ones who don't. Sometimes the talent isn't so much that, or like what they can do. The question is, what do they fall back to? And Valentina falls back to a level of a game that is almost error-free. Almost error-free. Now, that wasn't true the first time she fought Amanda Nunes. There's been a couple other times where it wasn't exactly true in a round. But, dude, of late, who has made her make mistakes? Who has made her like turn the wrong way or throw the wrong punch or miss the right read? Very, very seldom does that happen. To get to a point where you're hoisting her belt, you gotta bridge that gap. And I don't really know how that's easily done at this point.
Luke, Shevchenko turned 34 in March. She has like a lot of mileage from doing this game, martial arts in general. She has such a decorated, history before ever coming to the sport in terms of everything else she's accomplished, kickboxing, Muay Thai, all that. Do you? But it's not like she's taking a ton of damage. She's a super elite. Have you seen any evidence? I really think she's getting better every fight. I don't see any slowdown. Meaning, if she wants to keep doing this for a really long time and just put, the idea of going after records of saying, okay, if I can't fight all these huge names because they're not here or they're not at my weight, what if I finish with 15 title defenses? I mean, I think that she has shown the consistency and the dedication that is also certainly in play. Like, Luke, if I asked you to get really honest with me, in 5 years from now on this day, June 8th, the year, Luke, will be 2027. And I say, oh, Luke, remember we used to do that show, Morning Kombat? Dude, that was real fun. Sorry that I got us fired. But who's the female GOAT right now, by the way? Oh, how's Tukey? She's like, 8 now, probably, right? But who's the female GOAT? It's going to be Valentina by then.
Yeah, I mean, that's a separate debate that you seem intent on having every single time we do this show. I don't know what the answer to that is. By the way, at 34 years of age, though, to the point that you raise, yeah, she does have a lot of time competing. That's true. But, dude, she takes impeccable care of herself and doesn't seem to take a lot of damage in these fights. So I'm sure the training is hard, but she lives that training 24/7, 365. And by the way, also should be noted, like, it wasn't like it resulted in some dramatic change of her popular fortunes, but she has done movies and other stuff, and it didn't disrupt her training. It didn't disrupt her ability to win. It didn't disrupt anything. This is what I mean. Like, she has a lot of high level ability, but the real thing that stands out to me is the game is so well executed without a huge margin for error. Short of producing that from her, I candidly just don't know what the real option there is. I will say this, though, BC. If Santos does win, which we both agree is improbable but certainly possible, what does that do to your narrative of the GOAT? What does that do to all of their plans? Because we know Miesha Tate's going to be at 125 against Lauren Murphy at UFC 276, by the way. What does it do to everything if somehow Santos is able to do not the impossible here, but at least what most people consider to be the unlikely?
Yeah, it would certainly water down the need to continue to do things like GOATs, the conversations to fill podcast times, which people already think are sometimes ridiculous and all opinion based, and it's right. I mean, but it's also how we sort of identify who is the best we've ever seen. It's tough when someone's active and they're already called the GOAT, because then every time they win or lose, it's like, did the GOAT ship change hands? Who cares? I mean, look, the same thing happened when when Nunes lost to Pena, and we're sort of like, oh, what do we do now? Same thing happened when Amanda beat Cyborg. But it is kind of fun. It would show you that Valentina is human, that Taila Santos is coming on and is a very good fighter, and would almost certainly, require an immediate rematch.